The television studio was already tense before the cameras turned on. Not chaotic, not loud, just tense in the way that happens when everyone in the room knows something might go wrong, and no one's sure who will pull the trigger. Denzel Washington and Jasmine Crockett were scheduled to appear on a special broadcast discussing leadership across generations. It had been pitched as a respectful conversation between an elder statesman of Hollywood and a rising political figure. But that was just the version the public saw. Behind the scenes, there were emails, conditions, and warnings. Denzel Washington had only agreed to appear if the discussion remained substantive and respectful. That meant no grandstanding, no political theater, and no attempts to use him as a prop. Jasmine Crockett's team had agreed, or at least they said they had. But just minutes before they walked onto the set, one of Crockett's aides was overheard saying, "Let her take him down a peg. These old Hollywood types need to learn." And Denzel's longtime assistant heard every word. When they finally stepped onto the stage, the applause was warm and genuine. People were clapping for two accomplished figures, not knowing what was coming. Denzel walked with that unmistakable dignity, taking his seat with practiced ease. Jasmine followed, confident and ready. The moderator began with introductions. "Tonight, we have Academy Award winner Denzel Washington and Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett discussing leadership, legacy, and the future of America." It started cordially enough. They discussed their backgrounds, their motivations. But then Jasmine shifted the tone. She said, "Mr. Washington, with all due respect, your generation of celebrities has been largely silent while America burns. Where's your voice when we need it?" Denzel's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. He responded quietly, "Young lady, I've been serving my community for 40 years. Building schools, funding scholarships, mentoring youth. Just because I don't announce it at press conferences doesn't mean it's not happening." Jasmine pressed harder. "But silence in the face of injustice is complicity. Your platform could change minds, but you choose comfort over conscience." The audience grew uncomfortable. This wasn't the respectful dialogue they'd expected. Denzel leaned back slightly. "Congresswoman, I've learned something in my 69 years. The loudest voice in the room is rarely the wisest. And confusing volume with virtue is a young person's mistake." Jasmine's tone turned sharp. "So you're calling me unwise? Typical of your generation, dismissing younger voices as naive while you cling to outdated notions of respectability." That's when Denzel's demeanor changed. He sat forward, his voice still calm, but carrying unmistakable authority. "Outdated? I marched with my parents in the civil rights movement. I've spent decades lifting up our community. What you call outdated respectability, I call dignity. Something you might consider." Jasmine wouldn't back down. "Dignity? While people suffer, while democracy crumbles, your dignity is just another word for cowardice." The word hung in the air like a slap. Denzel stood up slowly. At 69, he still commanded the room with his presence. He looked at her for a long moment, then spoke with the kind of gravity that made audiences believe he was truly the characters he portrayed. "That's enough." The two words filled the studio. Not shouted, not angry, just final. "Now, before we witness what happened next in this explosive confrontation, I need to tell you something. What you're about to see is exactly why mainstream media doesn't want you to know these stories exist. They bury them, edit them, pretend they never happened. But we're here, exposing the truth they desperately want hidden. If you believe in real, unfiltered truth, if you're tired of being fed sanitized versions of events, then hit that subscribe button right now. Don't wait until the end, because what's coming next will blow your mind. Subscribe now and join the thousands who refuse to be lied to anymore. Trust me, after you see what Denzel does next, you'll understand why they tried so hard to make this disappear." Denzel continued, his voice carrying the weight of decades of experience. "You want to talk about cowardice? Cowardice is attacking someone's character because they don't perform their service the way you demand. Cowardice is mistaking rudeness for righteousness. Jasmine tried to interject. I'm not being rude. I'm being honest. No, Denzel interrupted, his voice rising slightly for the first time. You're being disrespectful. And I've lived too long and worked too hard to sit here and let you question my commitment to my people. He turned to the audience, many of whom were his generation. This is what's wrong with discourse today. It's not enough to serve. You have to serve the right way, say the right things, post on the right websites. Well, I'm from a generation that believed actions spoke louder than words. Several audience members began applauding. Denzel continued, now addressing Jasmine directly. You know what I did last week? I paid for 20 young men to go to college. Black men from neighborhoods everyone's forgotten. You know what I didn't do? Hold a press conference about it. Jasmine's confidence began to waver. I didn't know. Of course you didn't, Denzel said. Because real service doesn't need publicity. Real change happens in silence, in consistency, in showing up year after year without applause. He stepped closer to her, his presence filling the space. You want to lecture me about courage? I've been Black in America for 69 years. I've faced things you've only read about. I've broken barriers you walk through freely. And I did it with dignity, with grace, with respect for those who came before me. Jasmine stood frozen, unable to respond. Denzel's voice softened but remained firm. You're a brilliant young woman. You've achieved things at your age I couldn't have dreamed of. But brilliance without wisdom is dangerous. And wisdom recognizes that everyone fighting for justice doesn't have to fight the same way. He looked around the studio. I'm tired of this.